So these are the two reference models I was using for the Jorge helmet. I didn't know which one to reference because both of them were kind of similar. This top part here belongs to the helmet, but then in the game images I got, this one looks more similar than this one. So this is a Halo Reach helmet, I think, and this is the Grenadier helmet, or they're both Grenadier helmets, but anyway, Jorge helmet is kind of like a mixture of the two, I suppose. So I think I ended up using, I don't remember, I think I ended up using this one and then copying over the elements from this one, but anyway, so there were two of them and I kind of like merged them together, but anyway, that's what I started with. So I start with the design. I like to get a little bit of detail first and kind of do a deep dive just to get an idea for the detail level and what's expected. And for this one, ended up being this little bit on the side of the helmet was the first thing I did. You can see in the reference art that there is here we go. So I set up the reference art over here, kind of position the camera so that it was in roughly the right place. It doesn't have to be an exact overlay match, just to kind of get an idea for what the geometry looks like, and so then I can really easily swap between all my reference shots. This is a model that someone else started, or this is a model that was extracted directly from game files or something, but in the background. But the foreground model is what I started on. So here you can see I was doing a very faithful overlay of that geometry. Just kind of start somewhere and get to work. So for this one, I think I started by making a square and then slicing it probably here and bringing it in. And then these indentations, there's a trick to these. If you do a slice and then you bevel it, and then in the options over here, you do 2 segments. It gives you that nice little middle segment there, and then you can just, merge those and take these and do Alt S to indent it, and hey presto, you've got a little indentation. So easy. So that's what I did for a lot of this stuff. Then you have to indent that thing. Anyway, so yeah, you make little indentations and make a little circle. For the circle, I tend to just make a circle of whatever detail level I need, and then patch it into the surrounding geometry later. So like we wanted a circle in here, you add the thing, add the circle. Maybe 32 is too much. We'll do like 12, and then kind of get it planar. Try to get it as close as you can, and then fill that, and maybe extrude it a couple times and pull it out, and that. Maybe, oops, what was that? Oh, I see. No, I just went to the wrong layer. All right, and then indent that. Oh, we want to do like a deep indentation so you can see that the original piece is gone. Maybe a little bit smaller. Pop it out a little bit. Smaller still. All right. So anyway, so you get a thing like that, and then this is turning into a tutorial. What am I doing? Why am I making a tutorial? Who knows? So you select them both, and bridge edge loops. And there you have it. So now it's tied in and goes deeper than the surface, which you can't do just by adding something on top. So like for this one, I could have just added it on top without stitching it. I mean, I did stitch it, but could have not stitched it. And but for something like this, where it goes deeper than the surface level, you can't just add it on top there. And for 3D printing, a lot of the times overlaps don't get handled very nicely. The software interprets it as a Boolean instead of as a addition, as a Boolean NOR or something like that. So I try to avoid doing overlaps. See, here's some nasty geometry. So you can just select these 2 faces and fill it. And now we've got nice n-gon. And these we can convert to n-gons, like these are converted to n-gons. but you don't have to. Anyway, so that's how I got started. Did that, did the little front piece and the little bottom piece here, just to kind of get a feel for the detail level, and then I sent that back to the client and been like, hey, is this the kind of detail you're looking for? Is this enough? Is it too much? Just make sure that everything is up to snuff. And then once you've established the detail level and once you've got the setup with all your referenced art, then it's pretty straightforward to just blow through and, you know, model all this stuff based on what you can see. So that's what I did. So eventually I ended up with this. And this, I think, is the highest detail model that I ended up with. And later I removed some stuff for the finished one, like these little posts here having the weight saving cutouts. It turns out that you can't really rotomode those, so didn't do that in the end. But one of the things that really helped on this model was that one of the reference models had a texture applied to it. So I just brought the texture in, and then I could model directly over the texture, which is so convenient. And it also makes it look so nice when it's done. So this is the textured final detail model, minus, like I said, a few minor alterations. And you can see the texture's not perfect. In some places I had to modify it pretty significantly to get the detail from the other reference art. But yeah, looks pretty nice. So if you ever need to paint the helmet, this is one of the official paint jobs, I guess. I'm not sure where this came from again. I think this is game geometry. But you can see, like, this isn't textured properly because it wasn't in the original. Like, that's not part of the model, because this whole doohickey wasn't on there. It didn't exist. So yeah, so I ended up with this kind of nice, you know, poly model, and it doesn't have all the subdivisions in, because this is, like I said, this is just the modeling. I'm getting, well, it's got some detail, but it's all the details for definition, but not for geometry. And another thing is that these neck things here, like neck flange or whatever it is, that wasn't final. And then there are a few spots on this helmet that aren't symmetrical, like this and this is all symmetrical, it's all perfect. But this right here, this little thing in the front isn't symmetrical. It's got symmetrical bolts, but like it doesn't have symmetrical doohickeys here. And that's always annoying to work on non-symmetrical stuff, because you have to make a separate part. Like this whole thing is just one half. You can see it's just half of the geometry, and then it gets mirrored automatically. But this thing isn't, so I had to break that out and then stitch it back in later. So anyway, that's what it ends up looking like once modeling is done, and then it's just cleanup and finishing and getting it set for 3D printing, because you can't have a 0 thickness wall in 3D printing, and so you want to have something that you can actually print, which ends up looking like this. So this is the subdivision full correct wall thickness model for 3D printing. As you can see, it's got so many more lines on it, but if you go into the geometry, same geometry, it's just subdivided. And the lines are all creased properly so that it forms those nice hard edges, and everything looks nice. But yeah, when you export it, of course, you get all these little facets in there, and so that's going to take up a lot more space. But the file itself isn't actually that much larger. So you can see I've thickened all the walls, I've cleaned up behind the ears here, so they have separate things. Cleaned up some of these separate objects. So everything that needed to be its own, not needed to be, but that I ended up modeling as its own volume, I put in this object, and then this is everything that's just solidified. So this is a flat face. You can see there's a little lip up here, but inside it doesn't have any geometry defined inside, and so then it's solidified with a modifier. Whoa, never seen that big before. Solidify modifier over here. So you can see it's got 8, in this case it's millimeters thickness, and that was just what the client wanted for his 3D printing. And so yeah, so that's solidified and subdivided, and so that way you get a really nice smooth model for when it gets 3D printed. Of course, you're gonna have to finish it still, because 3D printing isn't perfect, so you get ridges and lines and stuff. But at least this gets it close. So there it is, the finished 3D model ready for 3D printing, and you can see I took out those big posts. I just made them solid again. I'm not sure how he's making this because it's still got this bridge here. How does that get made? Maybe just cut it out. I don't know. Anyway, so this is a pretty fun project, and now I'm going to cut over to the video of him actually rotomolding it, because he actually made these things. You can buy them. They're for sale. So I was really excited to see that. That's a neat project. Anyway, there it is.
Hey, it's just a little video to show you how I'm trialing to make a mold for Jorge helmet. That's the inside of the helmet. So I want to get all these details. So I'm going to put get a bit of the resin and pour it in the front there. So I'm using TC890 resin. People in America use Smooth On, but it's really, really expensive to get to Australia. Just a 1-to-1 mix ratio of the two different parts. So it comes out white. I'm just going to add a dab of black, and that should turn it grey. I've got a fair amount of working time for this one. I think it's like 10 minutes for this one. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this in here. I can start spinning it around. Now, you can see, if I can show it to you, in there, there's a whole bunch of slushy resin. Now you play the resin dance. I've just got a little disposable brush here. I might just kind of push it around. It's getting pretty thick now. You might be able to see just down there on the front of the visor, it's kind of thickening. I think I'm going to try and hold it like this to try and get all that front detail. This is the front of the helmet down here. I'm probably going to do about 6 or 7 coats, something like that. Let that sit and hopefully all the bubbles rise up. I left it for about 10 minutes. You can see it's set from the brush I used. Now, as you can see, the color I just poured in is actually darker than the color I started with. And I did that kind of on purpose so that I can actually see the difference between the two, make sure everything's coated and that I don't lose it. I'll try and get the back end of it as much as I can this time. Okay, next morning, and it's all hardened there. And as you can see, this is the first one I used, the first cup. Oh, so damn satisfying. Okay, moment of truth. Oh, bloody perfect. Bloody perfect. I am incredibly happy with that.